Hi, and welcome to holiday lesson number 3, the Everett interpretation of quantum mechanics. I begin with a very important warning that absolutely none of this is on the A-level. None of it at all. 0% of what we're talking about today is on the A-level. If you write it on the A-level, you will not get any marks. This is not the type of quantum mechanics that we are talking about on A-level physics. It is good though. So, our story so far. We were firing one electron at two Young's slits, which if you remember, just two holes in a wall, simple as that. The electron, through the magic of quantum superposition, is in two places at once. As such, it goes through both holes, interacts with itself, and creates a diffraction pattern. We decide we'd like to know which door it is going through, so we bounce a photon off the electron, and that goes to us. The problem comes in that if the photon is sufficiently energetic to tell us which door the electron went through, the electron will rather boringly only go through one door. However, if the photon has is weak enough that we can't tell which door it went through, the electron will still go through both doors and we will get a diffraction pattern. As I said last week, this means the electron knows that you are looking at it. What we are talking about here is something many people refer to as quantum collapse. The electron was in two places at once. So in fact, we're actually going to draw two electrons, and this is the same electron in two different places. And it will just bumble along, go through either door, make the diffraction pattern. And something about high energy photon means that it stops being in two places at once, and so, as we say, collapses, so it is only in one place at once. This is the quantum collapse interpretation of quantum mechanics, and it's what most people use. They say, well, when things are small, they can be in two places at once, but if big things like humans interact with them, then they'll just obediently start to follow classical mechanics again, and everything will be in one place or another place, like, you know, pens or lanyards or whatever. Yeah? However, doesn't really answer the question about why it is exactly at the point where we can tell which door it went through that is the quantum collapse. What is so special about human perception or human understanding that causes a quantum collapse? And in fact, that should get your hackles up. There is this theory called the anthropomorphic theory within all of physics, which basically says you are not special. If your physical theory ever dictates that the Earth is at the centre of the world, or that humans are somehow different from other matter, or there's something about human consciousness which is special, your theory is probably wrong. So something else is probably going on. And what's interesting is that the maths of quantum mechanics is very clear on what happens. The math says this is what happens. The electron really is in two places at once. It really is superimposed. It bumbles along and it bumps into a high energy photon. So we'll draw the electrons, they now move from here, and they've got near the doors, and one's going through this door and one's going through this door. The photon, when it interacts with the two electrons, also becomes superimposed. The maths tells us that whenever a superimposed system interacts with anything else, that thing too becomes superimposed. So previously there was one photon, but it interacts with this nonsense and superimposes. So now two photons are coming off, because this one photon is in two places at once. It has become superimposed by interacting with the quantum superposition. Those two different photons fly towards you, bump into you, and you too become superimposed. There are now two different versions of you. One in the version where the electron went through this door, and one in the version where the electron went through this door. which means when the photon hits you, suddenly you can only see one electron. You've become superimposed, meaning you're now either in the universe where the electron went through this door and you can see this photon, or you're in the universe where the electron went through this door and you see the other photon, which would explain exactly why quantum collapse happens at the level of human consciousness. The whole theory perfectly explains what you see. And it is also what the maths says should happen. The problem is you're creating new universes every time there's a quantum collapse. If you think about it carefully, the information, as we talked about 2 weeks ago, will be in a light cone, so it will spread out at the speed of light. So whenever you have a quantum superposition which then interacts with the wider world, two new universes then spread out, the left-hand universe and the right-hand universe, at the speed of light, arcing all the way out. And everything suddenly becomes superimposed as its fields interact with this superposition. So if you were then to pick up a cup of tea, the cup of tea would become superimposed, and so on and so forth. This is not actually a problem, it's just weird. It's so weird that most people just tell you it cannot happen. They say, but that can't possibly be the answer. We can't just have random universes being created left, right and centre, because that would just be too much. The phrase people use is it is too ontologically complex, which just means it's too big. It's too strange an idea for us to get our heads around. But it's what the math says happens, and it perfectly explains what you see. So many more philosophical and theoretical physicists actually endorse it and say, no, this is really what's happening. You may also have heard of the many worlds theory of quantum mechanics, the idea that there are infinite possible universes, anything that can happen will happen. What that is, I always think, is a misunderstanding of this. The Everett interpretation of quantum mechanics doesn't say that every possible universe happens. It merely says there is a vastly large finite number of universes, each one created by another quantum superposition. You don't have any control over them, and it doesn't mean that whenever you have a choice in one universe you choose one thing, in another universe you choose another. It's nothing like that. All it's saying is that whenever these quantum superpositions crop up, and they do happen quite frequently as far as we can tell, multiple universes are then created. But you don't have any control over them, and they've got nothing to do with human choices or human outcomes. That again would be a little anthropocentric, wouldn't it? All it's saying is that whenever quantum superpositions interact with big stuff, they'll also split the big stuff and you'll end up with multiple universes. Strange that one could start a sentence with all it is saying and end with creation of multiple universes. So there you go, the average interpretation of quantum mechanics. Hope you're having a good week. See you Thursday.